Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Hey folks, and welcome back to the podcast. This week, commencing 14th of November 2022, in the UK, firefighters have voted to reject the pay offer in a consultative ballot as per the FBU. This means that firefighters and control staff have voted to reject a 5% pay offer in a result that FBU leaders are saying displays a remarkable strength of feeling. Now, 79% voted to reject the 5% offer, and 78% of eligible members voted in the ballot, which is pretty damn good, actually. 78% is a high call out for voters. Now, what does all this really mean? A lot of people are new to the UK Fire and Rescue Service. So in today's episode, we're going to go back and look a little bit at what does it really mean around cost of living, what has been happening over the last couple of decades. Today's episode was brought to you by our good friends at Wood Watches. We put so much thought into the people that we partner with on the podcast, and Wood Watches has been with us since the beginning. Now, they have 6 different collections now. In October, they brought out their new Fearless collection. Now, I've been speaking to some people in the past who have got that Wood watch for a specific occasion, for something really smart, really classy. But the best thing about the Fearless collection is that it's built to be worn in active surroundings. Now, again, if you're unfamiliar with it, the massive core of all these Wood watches is the upcycling of firefighting materials. And the Fearless collection has got a 100-year-old British Bash firefighter helmet melted down and placed inside the crown of the watch. That's exactly the same as they have with all of their collections. But this one also features repurposed black fire hose. I myself went for the Valiant watch. I've had this for a couple of years now. Really nice. I've got it in the red strap. There's a whole range of payment options. Go over and take a look at them. Whether you're thinking of a retirement gift, you got something special to celebrate, or you have just started your emergency services career, go over and check them out. WilliamWoodWatches.com. The best way to support the podcast is to support our sponsors. So please take a click in the notes below. Now back to the show. Now, as a result of this vote this week, the next steps will be decided at an executive council for the FBU, and the union will be moving to a ballot on strike action. Now, we haven't had strike action in the UK for quite some time, and the FBU themselves, the Fire Brigade Union in the UK, say whilst government is not directly responsible for pay negotiations, it directly provides a significant proportion of the funding for fire and rescue services across the country. They say that we have firefighters using food banks, which I definitely know is a fact, and our members work through the pandemic to help protect the communities, which we all know. Took on all kinds of extra duties, didn't really get paid for them. And this, which is effectively going to be a further real terms pay cut, is absolutely disgusting. And whilst they are saying that strike action is always a last resort, the UK Fire and Rescue Service cannot continue to go on like this. So to give us a bit more of a holistic look at how this affects everybody, we're going to firstly look at a little bit of information on rising rates and understand a little bit more about the increase in the cost of living and why it's so hard for people to deal with. So the cost of living is increasing at the fastest rate in 40 years. And this is largely as a result of rising food and energy prices. Now, inflation itself is the increase in the price of something over time. For example, if a bottle of milk costs £1 and it goes up to £1.05, then the inflation rate is 5%. Pretty simple, really. Now, the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, which again is referenced a few times by the FBU in some of their work, they come up with an inflation figure, and that keeps track of the prices of hundreds of everyday items. And this is known as the basket of goods. Basket's constantly updated. For example, tin beans and sports bras are added this year, reflecting interests in plant-based diets and exercise and all that sort of stuff. Now we're going to jump back to how this relates to firefighter pay in a minute. But firstly, as an example, inflation is at 10.1% in September 2022. It's really gone through a massive rise since 2020. Now the cost of energy is the key reason why things are getting more expensive, as says the Office of National Statistics and also some of the BBC News reports. Now, back in October 31st, firefighters launched a consultative ballot on pay, which we've now had a decision on. Now, a consultative ballot means members can vote online or by the post. It's thought that a lot more people are doing these online now, and that's why we're getting a higher return from votes from members. Now, if we head all the way back to 2004, the basic annual pay for a trainee firefighter is $18,756. And once competent, that boosts up to $25,000. So that's back in 2004. So 2004, competent firefighter, $25,000. Now we jump forward to 2009, where a competent firefighter can expect a basic annual return of £28,199 for their pay. However, in 2009, there was a pay freeze, and this stayed in place till 2012, where the NJC agreed an increase of 1%, meaning that a competent firefighter in 2012 could expect $28,481. Now, since 2012, we have seen small increments, taking us steadily further and further behind the living wage increase. And in 2021, the NJC agreed an increase of 1.5%, taking competent firefighter pay up to £32,244, but a starting trainee's pay at only £24,191, meaning a basic hourly rate of £11.05, and a competent firefighter expected to be paid only £14.72 an hour. That means that for less than £15 an hour, people get the opportunity to do a job that the World Health Organization in July this year declared to be a carcinogenic occupation. As a fun little test, I thought I would jump onto Google and see what jobs I could get for £15 an hour. And here's a little insight for you. You can be a warehouse operative working for Amazon, and you can get paid £23 an hour working as a warehouse operative for Amazon. I'm sure that is a challenging job, perhaps not quite in the same lines as cancer-causing, life-saving work, but nonetheless. You can go and work for the massive crisps manufacturer Walkers, which will pay you £17 an hour as a minimum. And by the looks of the job advert, you can watch crisps go along the line and maybe clear some up from time to time. And imagine you also get to take some free crisps home every now and again. If you're living around the London area, you can go and be a leaflet distributor for £18 an hour, dropping leaflets in people's doors. You could be a retail assistant for Samsung and get a whopping £16 an hour. Now, of course, if you do choose to work down in London, let's take a glance at London Fire Brigade's wages. On their website, you can see as a trainee firefighter, you'll earn a salary of £27,750, including London waiting, and once qualified, your salary will increase to £37,000 per annum. So as we go into these next few weeks and months closing out 2022, we're going to see some really interesting stuff around whether or not members of the UK Fire and Rescue Service will move into strike action as the weather gets colder and colder and Christmas is looming around the corner. Bills are rising dramatically and firefighters are increasingly struggling to pay their mortgage or rent. Most of us are facing choosing whether or not we want to put food on the table or switch the heating on. This is despite the fact that firefighters and of course all of our backroom staff were called, referred to and celebrated as key workers during the pandemic, but now we face another significant cut. As we mentioned earlier, inflation is currently at around 10%. So over the next few weeks and months, we will try and continue to give you a brief summary of where things are and how it could affect you. There are masses and masses of websites, articles, PDF documents out there, but we will endeavour to do our best to give you a brief and accurate version of what's happening in the UK Fire and Rescue Service. Thanks for coming back to the podcast. If you are struggling, please reach out to your service, please reach out to your union. There are lots of money-saving expert ways out there. There are food banks, there are tips, there are tricks. There are ways for you to manage your money a little bit differently. Please look after each other, please look after your families, please support your colleagues in whatever way you can, and we really appreciate what you do. Stay safe out there. We'll see you soon.
The Firefighters podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.